All right, everyone, we should be live. Let's make sure that's actually the case. Cross-platform, going live at exactly the right time. Nobody can bitch about it. I'm not late. It's literally exactly 7 a.m. Eastern time. We have a lot to cover today. I'll probably try to keep some of the news stories a little bit shorter. Oh, and actually, I did forget to put a link over on YouTube. Just a second, everyone. Whoops. And I can't find the link. Oh, there it goes. Okay. Just a moment, everyone. All right, something to plop in there for the live stream. Give me my links. Okay, yeah, I am live on YouTube. Pop that in and pin it. I am pinning a message if you're watching on YouTube. It is also available in the description cross-platform, of course, over on Rumble as well. Assuming I'm live, and I'll check that in a second. The Grifty Awards, which I believe are announced this upcoming January, are posted. Hotep Jesus is doing this stuff again, second year running, and my cat has been nominated. So I ask you to upvote Sticks, Hex, and Hammer's cat for a Grifty Award, because boy, the cat definitely is a grifter and definitely deserves it. Yes, more than Gavin Newsom. Yes, more than anyone else on that list. And please do upvote Sticks, Hex, and Hammer's cat. I think currently we're at number 14. The other day it was number 18. Apparently it was higher before, but then slipped down the list. People nominate whoever they want. And so you can definitely vote for Sticks, Hex, and Hammer's cat for a Grifty Award. That would be a big accomplishment. And very, very true. Let's make sure that we're actually live here. Yeah, we're live on Rumble. Okay, good. Yes, and by the way, to Valst, there are two cats, but they look so similar, I think people think that it's only one sometimes. Farah and Yana. Farah is the one you're more likely to see, but Yana is actually more of the grifter cat. So I guess she will receive the award if that happens. Fuse32, Maryland is just giving away wear and carry licenses now. Went from 90 days to 32 days. Got mine on the way. Yeah, so you shouldn't even need a license to carry a firearm. Hope we're talking about the Uvalde lawsuit. No, actually, that's not on the docket for today. It is on the docket for tomorrow for a primary video, however. I have to cut it down because, I mean, if there's more than 10 or 11 different topics to cover, I have to bump some. I don't have a choice. Before I was doing these live streams, I was bumping half of the good news topics. Because I was only doing, the daily videos. And I'm like, well, I can make 5 or 6 videos a day. The algorithm's not going to like that. Or I can start doing a daily live stream. Deathstroke, who's Ashley Biden? We will be finding out. Yes, indeed. This is the main news of the day. 2 plead guilty in scheme to sell Ashley Biden's diary, specific to Project Veritas. They attempted to sell it for $40,000. Ashley Biden is Joe Biden's daughter. And under normal circumstances, most of what's in this diary is just, the teen angst thing. Nobody really gives a fucking shit. It was taken from apparently a derelict home at the time. So it's a break-in. They pled guilty. And I would like to point out something. It's being glossed over by the legacy media when they bother to cover this at all. And none of them are talking about the content of the diary, not without good reason. They're defending their Alzheimer's Adolf, which is the new nickname for Joe Biden. I notice that these people, they gloss over the content of the diary completely when they're talking about it at all. And that's very, very funny. It had been actually released before. It had already been digitized. Material from it had already been posted. When it first went live, and it was, big, at least among independent content creators, I refused to really talk about it. I referenced it briefly, but said, look, I can't even corroborate what's in this. I'd like to point out, within the U.S. justice system, because this is about 2 Florida residents pleading guilty to steal the diary. Just because you plead guilty doesn't mean you're guilty. Oftentimes it means that you're facing worse charges and you decided to plea it down. So you ran somebody over maliciously with your car. You're facing second-degree murder. But then the prosecutor comes and says, look, this is going to drag out for 6 months in court. Waste your time, wastes our time, etc. But, you had a little alcohol in your system. So what about you plead guilty to DUI and reckless driving? You're not a felon. You serve a little time. You do restitution. But we're not going to bother with these larger charges. We're giving you a sweetheart deal. Most people will take it. This is how most trials, by the way, in the United States end. They end with the intimidation by the prosecution of the defendant because they have limitless funds, limitless time, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The defendant says, well, I have a job, I have a family, et cetera. I'm cutting my losses. I'd rather serve 6 months for sure than face 5 years potentially if there's any possibility that the charges can stick. So that's number one. Number two, again, the legacy media is not really talking about this, but what about the content of the diary? Most of it's bullshit. Nobody cares. There is one significant passage which talks about Ashley Biden having felt uncomfortable showering with her father. She thought it was inappropriate. They were naked. Talking about being wiped like in the bathroom at too late an age, and then also felt that she had been molested. Now, the particular last part, which is potentially the most legally important, doesn't mention Joe Biden. So there's no direct corroboration that involves him. But it is questionable. When you look through this diary, there's a fairly large amount of it that deals with sexual angst and feelings of psychological loneliness, feeling molested, et cetera, et cetera. And it's very, very, very disturbing, number one. And number two, it's disturbing that the legacy media is not even talking about that. It's not a surprise. Are you surprised that MSNBC in their report on the Ashley Biden diary isn't bothering to mention the part where she says that her dad was showering naked with her at too late an age and she felt uncomfortable about that? No, really? And when we corroborate this as well, we'll be covering this too, the Hunter Biden bombshell. It looks like the entire sleazy deep state has just been covering for Biden and everyone else's ass continuously for years and years and years, literally covering up news stories. We've got the Zuckerberg piece with regards to the Hunter Biden laptop. That's not quite as significant. I'm not even going to cover it because I don't have time. We've got that today as well on the Rogan podcast. Yes, Zuckerberg himself, the failed Generation 2 synth shows up and says, yeah, the FBI was telling us to, with a wink and a nudge, is the wink and a nudge mentioned, by the way, we're telling us to be very, very careful about Russian misinformation. Right around exactly the time that the Hunter Biden laptop case happened to drop. I wonder if there was an attempt to connect the two together. He doesn't own up to that, but I guarantee that it was brought up. That is, by the way, by Zuckerberg, that is, I allege, a lie. Graham Murphy. Hi, Sticks. Thank you for your work. Please say hello to my daughter, Lauren. She hears you in the background daily. Hello, Lauren. Michael B sent $7.99 Australian, and he sent a thumbs up emoji. No further comment. Reminds me of the pull my finger thing. But we be clanking. There are almost 500 people already watching on Rumble, by the way, right now. Please do take that link. Regardless, cross-platform, link in the description to the Grifties page. Again, that's Hotep's Jesus thing. And vote for Sticks, Hex, and Hammer's cat. We need to get into the top 3, I think, to get a Grifty award, if I remember correctly. I think we can do it, too. We have to face off against Gavin Newsom and Fauci and other people like that. Let me actually grab the link. Who's ahead of us? Okay, so we did the Ashley Biden thing. It's major news, but you're not going to get anything from the legacy media about that. The Grifties, Hotep's Been Told You, presents... Watch the second annual Grifties Awards. Okay, so we're on the third, I think, actually, the third Grifties Awards. Vote for the Grifter of the Year. Oh, I still have a vote remaining here, actually. We are now at number 13, Sticks, Hex, and Hammer's cat. We have eclipsed Gavin Newsom. We have The Rock in number 12, Mayor Eric Adams at 11, Neil Young at 10. I'd be tempted to vote for him. Don Lemon at 9. He's a perennial. Who cares? You don't need to vote for Don Lemon. Nancy Pelosi again, career politician. That's boring. Jussie Smollett, Volodymyr Zelensky, Dr. Anthony Fauci, Klaus Schwab, Jack Murphy, Justin Trudeau, and for some reason, Nick Rekieta is in number 1. So we have to beat the likes of Jussie Smollett and Klaus Schwab in order to get my cat up into the leaderboard. But I think that we can do that. Yeah, why is Nick Rekieta number 1 on the Grifting Award? Did somebody who really doesn't like him and has an audience decide to go on here and post that? I don't even know. Fire down below. McCry of the Unheard. Bill, can we finally admit that President Biden works for the deep state? He's been part of it since the 70s, so I don't think there's much admission necessary. Cheese, MTG being swatted is not the fault of Kiwi Farms, likely to someone related to Keffels or Nick Fuentes / America First. I would say I will remain agnostic on who is responsible. I'm simply talking about the fact that she was swatted 2 different fucking nights in a row, and how terrible a precedent it is. HM, do you donate to any with all the super chats? I have donated to people before. I have given money to other creators, but that'll remain private because, of course, it just is private. Mostly it's used for diapers and energy drinks at this point. The Grizzly, sometimes I don't even get the point of pointing out the left's hypocrisy. Nothing ever seems to be done about it. No matter how egregious the violations, ethical or legal, they just seem to get away unscathed. Yeah, there is a double standard within the legacy justice movement. Okay, here's the story. Georgia police respond to Marjorie Taylor Greene's home after swatting call. Yes, apparently they said there was a subject shot multiple times in a bathtub, I think. A second 911 call from the alleged suspect using a computer-generated voice stated that they were upset about Mrs. Greene's political views on transgendered youth rights, police said. I don't know who's shilling who at this point. Again, I must remain agnostic on who actually called in these calls. It seems the problem, if you look at like the Keffels versus Kiwi Farms thing, both sides have a deep-seated reason to shill the other and a false flag. So I'm not even going to weigh in on that. And really, I don't give a shit. I don't care about Kiwi Farms, Keffels, any of these other morons. It's shit to me. That being said, when my bigger problem is that the police actually showed up armed for a call. This is the home of someone in Congress. Is there not a list that you have of specifically residences that are owned by people that are in such a position where they're likely to face death threats, they're likely to face such a thing? Is there not a list involved here? And she was thanking the police. She's like, they showed up and knocked. They didn't like bust down the door at 3 a.m. or anything like that. Wouldn't you think at some point we need to make it a very high-level felony to swat people? Because this has been happening to content creators now for years, and now it's beginning to happen to politicians. At some point, it's going to happen to judges. That could, if it becomes prevalent enough, it could crack society. People will be like living out of motel rooms in order to avoid it. Like I've thought about the midterm stream. I'm definitely not doing that from a private residence. I'll be doing that from a hotel room because of the increased risk that somebody who just doesn't like me calls in a call, especially if I'm in the United States because my address has been doxxed before. I did that myself many years ago, knowing it would be doxxed anyway. I'll do it from a hotel room. Probably better Wi-Fi anyway. So, everyone benefits. Order pizza and shit. And you'd best believe it'll have pineapple on it, Razor Fist. I ain't going to listen to you. ATL Sooner, been watching you since 2015. You and Matt Christensen had a baby around the same time as me, and 2 of my favorites had babies with me. Can you say hi to my baby, Bobby? Hello, Bobby. Welcome to the world. Probably adorable. Smoke Daddy. Rick Ricada asked his own fans to vote for him. Oh, okay. So he's just gaming the grifties. Well, we're going up against Rick Ricada then. Vote for my cat, for Styx Hexenhammer's cat. I don't know if we need to beat him, but I think he'd probably have to be at least in the top 3 in order to get a grifty award. That's fine. If the cat gets silver, she doesn't know any different. She just wants mushy food at this point. And to wake me up 5 times last night. She failed to wake up the baby, though. She fought with her sister. She meowed incessantly. She got up on the couch and was scratching on it right next to my head. It wakes me up. I'm an insomniac. I wake up if somebody drops a grain of sand. The baby was fine. Slept through the entire night, actually. I was very happy. ES1776 sent $5. No comment, thank you. Rob S sent $2 and sent emojis. Baby, bottle, money, and I don't know what the last one is. It looks like a bundle of money with wings on it. So probably money go bye-bye, I guess, is Something like that. Either that or it's a brick of C4. Fuse 32, where? Fuck my life. Rocky, new tech exclusive shows on Rumble, but not BitChute. Yes, it has not gone through yet. Sometimes these sites do have problems grabbing the material. So that'll be up later. It's still stuck in processing, I think. The Spencer, the FBI was taping the laptop repair guy's phone. The Russian disinfo blitz came 12 hours before when he overnighted the hard drive to Giuliani. Interesting. YouTube is dying. My thing about the whole Biden scandals is that if all the left are like Twitter, I'm afraid they won't listen to sound, calculated reasoning or debate. They're not all like Twitter. Twitter is an echo chamber. It's a slice of the left and of other groups of people. You think the right wing doesn't have an echo chamber on Twitter? Spider Eternal, I think a good incentive would be to make student loan repayments infinitely deductible, not just give $2,600 a year. It would be effective versus government checks. We've got the next news story. FBI whistleblower, this is a big one, claims bureau leaders ordered staff not to investigate Hunter Biden laptop and told him the FBI is not going to change the outcome of the election again. Under normal circumstances, if I see this from a whistleblower or, just someone who's shitting it up, I wouldn't believe it. I'd say there's like 0% chance that actually happened. Pony up proof. I can believe it, though. There was a huge consensus among people within the lamestream that the fact that the FBI did its announcement not shy of the elections, with regards to Hillary Clinton's private email server, swung the election just enough to cause her to lose. Now, clearly that's not the case, but that was something the legacy media talked about. It was something that people in government talked about. It's certainly something that big tech discussed as well, which explains some of their current actions as well. It makes sense to me that the FBI, therefore, would have been reluctant to look into this because it was clearly timed before the election to be damaging. And it should have damaged Biden enough to keep him out of office. Just to be clear, honk, honk, of course, he won by 80,000 million votes or whatever it was. 10 scoops of ice cream, best president ever. Okay. Stewardship, moron. But that was the general consensus. If you believe there was no honking, the consensus was that would have been quite damaging to the campaign. Considering the narrow margin of victory in half a dozen critical states, it could have swung the election. I don't think it's likely, but it's possible. If people had known that the Hunter Biden laptop was not fake, that this was not Russian disinformation, that yes, quid pro Joe lied to the American people, he did dirty dealings with numerous other nations, et cetera, it would have been a big problem. And so the FBI, apparently, according to one whistleblower who sent it into, who was it? Was it Johnson? Senator Ron Johnson received a letter from the whistleblowers. Johnson, R, Wisconsin, sent a letter to DOJ Inspector General Michael Horowitz on Tuesday, bringing forth the new whistleblower claims. Recently, my office heard from individuals with knowledge of the FBI's apparent corruption, Johnson said. The problem with this story, it should be significant. I mean, it should be looked into. This is going to look like sour grapes because it involves the FBI at all. Even though it doesn't have anything to do with Mar-a-Lago or anything Trump-related, it has to do with Hunter Biden's laptop. No liberal would look at this, even if you looked into it further, and say that it was above board. They'll call it a political attack. So unfortunately, despite the fact that we do need closure with regards to Hunter Biden's laptop, we need to look into the quid pro quos, especially. Nobody cares about the crack and the hookers and stuff. That's small time petty crime. Would Hunter Biden not doing that for an extended period would surprise me more. He's probably still doing it now. Nobody cares, though. He's not an elected official. What is disturbing is that Joe Biden engaged in illegal business dealings with foreign leaders while he was in office, and that there was subsequently a cover-up. But if you attempt to look into this cover-up, and it should be looked into when the Republicans regain the House, it's not going to sway any minds that are partisan. About the only voters that it'll sway are independent voters. And there are less and less of them up until fairly recently. There are more now than there were a couple of years ago, but it's still a minority within the voting public. Sean Nathan, it's no coincidence the U.S. went to hell when we lost Bob Ross and Mr. Rogers. Zoomers have no moral compass. Yeah. Red Raider Matthias, speaking of MTG, Did you see how the White House Twitter called out the GOP for getting their PPP loan forgiveness? GOP needs to get it together before midterms. Also been a minute since I saw you live. Best. Yeah, I wasn't live yesterday. I was on baby duty. Yeah, I did actually see that. If I were her, I would have not taken the loan bailout, to tell the truth. Just like I don't intend to take the student loan bailout if it's offered to me. If I have any other choice, I'll just pay it off myself. I don't want the government involved. Mustafa the Great. I'm from Chicago, and Lori Lightfoot is such a screw-up and hated by the people so much the city may vote for a conservative independent named Willie Wilson. That's if the Chicago machine don't cheat. I think Lori Lightfoot, unfortunately, is far out ahead, if I remember correctly, because it is an extremely blue city. But yeah, I mean, that is crazy. Long Dong John. Your thoughts on YouTube changing the TOS? And I won't read the rest of that because I don't know that actually that will apply to what I would have to say with regards to certain facial apparel that is pertinent to the use against miasmas and so forth. I think that YouTube is nuts. And I think that it's not coincidental timing. It comes out exactly as a report comes out about Trump fast-tracking the vaccines, and people had questions about them, along with alternative treatments, some of which were adopted and some of which, of course, weren't. I don't think it's coincidental. I think it's yet another last gasp of the liberals trying to retain their relevancy. So yeah, the Hunter Biden laptop thing was directly and explicitly covered up by the FBI, according to at least one whistleblower. I would think that that should be front page news. I didn't see anything about it on MSNBC, and I'm wondering why. Battle Elf, the world needs a gaslighting award, the Gassies. Yeah, if you did that though, you'd be called deeply problematic for using that as an award name. I'll let you figure out why. Next, the NAACP slams Biden over reported student loan debt cancellation plan. The Biden administration is reportedly leaning towards canceling $10K in student loan debt for each borrower. So this was before the plan was read out. And of course, it is basically fundamentally the same. They're slamming it, calling it inadequate to address the $1.75 trillion in student debt held by Americans. To be clear, it only does forgive a small proportion of it. Imagine that you have like $100K in loan debt and, you know, you did well. You've got a reasonable job, but you're still sinking in interest. The 10, 20K is not going to do anything. If you already paid it off, you're fucked. If you never went to college, you're fucked. If you make a little bit more than 125K, despite the fact that you might have six figures in debt, you're fucked. If the interest rates are too high, even after this is deducted from it, you're fucked. This is a throwaway to a very small proportion of people that are impacted by student debt. It would have made more sense to just cancel it outright and reabsorb everything. Yeah, it would have a huge, terrible economic impact, but at the very least, for those people, it'd be an even playing field. Hell, just sign a couple trillion more. Just give everyone 20K in a massive stimulus. At least then it's equitable. Some people pay off student loans. Some people buy an EV. Some people buy fentanyl, I suppose. At least it's equitable. And then you wait and see what people do with their massively depreciated handout. And then you go from there. Ironically, that would be better. It would be better to completely jack the economy off sideways, rip its cock out and shove it up its ass than to engage in this particular kind of behavior. But the Biden admin is just grifting. They're hoping for votes. The reason that this was done at this particular time instead of in the first year when they had exactly the same congressional composition is because they realized that if they did it earlier on, the inflation would show up before midterms and it wouldn't be popular. They would also realize that a lot of those people getting that student loan forgiveness will not be able to change their lives to any positive, appreciable manner. 90% of them are in the same boat that they were before. They're still impoverished. They're still paying onerous interest. They're still in debt, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Mike Roch, if the value of education is associated with the debt incurred, forgiving debt reduces the value of education. Basic ledger accounting. Lord of the Snowy Plains, thanks for leading me to Pixel Planet. I'm having a blast on there. Anyone want to come help me expand the colony of Clankifornia? Yeah, apparently California is being redone with the red and yellow tiles in order to claim it for Clankdom, along with New York State. Nickel Dime, Gavin McInnes swatted on air, possibly arrested. Yes, there's a reason why I'm not weighing in on that at any length. I don't know the circumstances. He's possibly arrested. We don't know that. Possibly just detained. We don't know that. We don't know why he was taken off air. We know nothing further about the situation, other than Gavin McInnes was doing a live stream, barely goes live, and then his chair just sat there live streaming for an extended period of time. Beyond that, we don't know anything. So there's no news. I cover news on these live streams. I can't do it as part of a news roundup because there's no news to report that you're not seeing already on a half a dozen 4chan threads. Hopefully we get an insider who's capable of telling us a little bit more. But right now, we don't really have that. Very sad. Somebody, of course, I think is mowing the lawn right as I'm live. How lovely. At least give me the grass clippings. I'll compost them and I'll, grow pepper plants or leeks or something. Next news story, The Hill reporting this on Twitter. Biden says extreme MAGA philosophy is like semi-fascism. Now, this is actually conciliatory because usually the leftoids just call it fascism. He's giving a reach around and saying it's only semi-fascism. It's only a little bit fascistic. I'm thinking, what does semi-fascism even mean? He just didn't want to use the term actual fascism because then the neoliberals would bristle and say, I don't know about that one. Hey, Joe, I actually do know what fascism is. Of course, fascism is much closer to neolib and neocon ideology than it is to MAGA. MAGA populism with some libertarian tendencies is further from fascism. This is the reality. When you look at what the neoliberals, etc., are proposing, massive new regulations, taxes, attacks on the energy industry, etc., there is a de facto marriage of industry, especially big tech and the legacy media, with government. That's much more fascistic than what MAGA is proposing. When you're saying fuck the media, when you're saying unbridle an actual free economy, when you're saying that we shouldn't have hampered trade deals, that's the opposite of fascism. What Biden is proposing and what has been proposed over the last 30 years, roughly, is closer to fascism than almost any other ideology you could compare it to. Today's so-called liberals aren't really liberal. Certainly the old guard conservatives pre-MAGA are not really conservative. You get a handful of libertarian-leaning evangelicals there. That was basically the closest thing that you had in active government. People like Ron Paul are light years ahead with regards to that. TMZ is reporting Richard Simmons dead by suicide. Rest in peace. I highly doubt that. He seems like a very happy individual, considering how much fucking money did he make by being a bassist? Mitch James, thoughts on Nick Fuentes? Razor trashes him. Well, I debated him a few times and it was always reasonably amicable. But then what did he labeled me Goth Sean Hannity once because I spoke out against doxing, I think it was, or something. And I was like, I don't know. I don't stand. I don't really care. I have no problem with him personally. I think that some of his views are wonky, but I tend to think that about everyone, including Razor. He likes his steaks well done. I don't know which one is worse. Emperor Soft Turtle, people did the math. In 10 years, the student debt crisis will be right back where it started. Oh, I don't think you'll have to wait 10 years. Oh, I'm getting it wrong? Oh, yeah, that's Gene Simmons. Okay, Richard said, oh, you mean fucking just a sec. I'll fact check this live. Shit. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything with regards to Richard Simmons offing himself. With him, I wouldn't be surprised if he killed himself. He disappeared years ago, and there were some odd circumstances about that. He did seem like a genuinely unhappy person for some years. So I wouldn't be surprised, but I have no evidence that that's the case. Make sure to take that link and vote for Styx Hexenhammer's cat over on the Grifty Awards. Link in the description, also pinned in chat if you're on YouTube. By the way, how many people are watching live right now? We have about 4,500 live viewers at the moment. Not bad. So get on the Grifties, God. That's a lot of people. We can shoot it right up. We're still at number 13, I think, right now. So yeah, MAGA philosophy is apparently semi-fascism, specifically because it stands against elements of fascism. Tanvir Hafiz, colleges just raised their tuition $10,000. I don't think that that is actually going to happen because, of course, it's not going to help any continuous borrowers year over year. It's only helping people currently in debt. A lot of those people have left college. What will happen, of course, is the endowments won't be touched. The deans will keep getting 7-figure salaries. The colleges will keep getting federal handouts, and then they will build sports stadiums and student centers. They won't attempt to focus on lowering the cost. Fire down below. Do you think the mainstream narrative on vaccines will do a 180 and use it against Trump? They seem to be gearing up to attempt to do so, at least with regards to the Pfizer stuff. Adam THM, Nate Silver is saying liberals may have forced the vaccine release to be pushed back to after the 2020 election. It's clown world now, but no one cares. It does seem like they attempted to do so. God, when that's coming from Nate Silver, you know. So yeah, if somebody can get me a link on Richard Simmons supposedly offing himself, I'll remain doubtful until I see any corroboration. Next, we've got India fires 3 officers for accidentally firing a missile into Pakistan. New Delhi. The Indian Air Force said on Tuesday the government had sacked 3 officers for accidentally firing a missile into Pakistan in March, an incident that the 2 nuclear-armed rivals handled calmly as there were no casualties. Well, thank goodness. Imagine if it had been a few miles in one direction and, well, shit, it just hit Karachi. You could end up with a literal nuclear war. India and Pakistan have relatively small stockpiles, but it's still enough to decimate one another. It's still enough to cause 1 billion deaths, considering how densely populated the 2 countries are. Don't you think that this is a reason why missiles should be pulled back from some of these more sensitive borders? Don't you think this is a warning sign of what could happen over, I don't know, the Eastern European border with Russia, or potentially China and Taiwan, or North and South Korea? Now, the Indian and Pakistani militaries, of course, they're not quite as well trained as certain militaries that we're talking about, certainly South Korea or Taiwan. But they have first world military capabilities in general. They do have nuclear weapons, at least in that sense. Couldn't that be a problem? What if this had been one of those missiles that was tipped with something more powerful than just a standard explosive? Thank goodness it didn't hit anything, I guess. The BrahMos missile, a nuclear-capable land attack cruise missile jointly developed by Russia and India, was fired on March 9th, prompting Pakistan to seek answers from New Delhi on the safety mechanisms in place to prevent accidental launches. I'm just trying to think of the situation. Like, there's no safeguard on it or anything. It's just you press a button and the missile fires from whatever position it's in. And somebody leaned down because they were tired and they put their elbow on the fucking launch button or something like that. Or a crow flew in and grabbed the launch button and accidentally pressed it thinking that it was food. This could actually be the case. Steve Smith, it doesn't help anybody with private student loans. Yeah, only if they're public as well. Which means that some of those millions of people don't get jack shit. Haha. The Grizzly, did you notice how quickly the Dark Brandon meme died and was quietly shooed away like Ultra MAGA being used by the left to trash MAGA? Lol, we are hyper MAGA. Trump 2024, guys. Yeah, I did notice that. That only lasted that lasted less than Elizabeth Warren's meme team did. That way, at least that was self-satirical for about a week. Mitch James. What happened to Mr. Medicare? Is he still alive? He was posting yesterday, I think. Oh, yeah, and then we have a good one. This is now a couple of days outdated, but it was something that I really wanted to have headlining anyway. Breaking, Paul Pelosi DUI video release. Do you remember when Paul Pelosi, the husband of Nancy Pelosi, was arrested for driving under the influence? Please take a look at this video. I have not archived it because it is a video, so you have to be able to play it. It's only 1 minute and 30 seconds long. And this dude looks absolutely out of his mind sauced. Dude can barely stand. The officer is confused, I think. I think he knows who he is, or at least he sees a fairly wealthy-looking dude in a suit, so he gives him deference. And he's like, I don't want you to fall over, so we're going to try to do this test, but, you know, if you can't do it, for your own safety, we're just going to drive you to the drunk tank. He can barely lift his own arms. He can barely speak. He's completely incoherent. He's completely sauced. You try being that drunk and probably high. You get a DUI. You're driving erratically. You try getting that kind of deference from a goddamn officer. Unless you're dressing for success and you happen to be driving a Porsche at the time, guarantee that you're not getting it. Not under any circumstances. They went out of their way on this and then buried the story. The fact is that if Paul Pelosi is given latitude to hammer himself completely, like I would estimate, assuming no other drugs, looking at how drunk he is, I would say he had 5 or 6 drinks at a bare minimum, possibly a little bit more than that. He's housed. I would say there's a pretty good chance he's on other things here, some barbiturate or some shit. I think he got a hold of something beyond just the alcohol. Maybe it's pot, in other words, nobody cares. Maybe he's on mushrooms. I don't know what the fuck he's on. He's not cocaine or something like that. It's clearly not a stimulant. Something's desperately wrong with the situation. And I think that the public needs to know answers, since this is the trade-happy husband of the leader of the House majority. I would think that this is at least a little bit of a scandal. It doesn't touch upon Pelosi. And the other thing is, I will issue a defense of Paul Pelosi. If I was Nancy Pelosi's husband, I'd probably get sauced fairly on the reg too. So I don't think anyone blames him. We're just asking you not to get behind the wheels of a car when you happen to take your respite from your evil wife. Aaron C., I know you're not a lawyer, but do you think the loan forgiveness is even entirely legal? No, and partially I believe that's because of the Pell differential. You're effectively carving people off into smaller and smaller groups, giving them differential treatment based on their past income. Here's the problem. Let's say, and I want you to use this in arguments against liberals if you have the time and the latitude to do so. You have 2 loan recipients. One did not receive Pell. Their parents were reasonably well off. They're from the middle class, upper middle class. They've got a whole shit ton of debt, and they've fallen on hard times and now flip burgers. They get $10,000 of student loan relief, regardless of how much loan there is, the interest building up, or their current income. Second recipient got Pell. They did really well right out of college, started making $80, $90K a year. They're not flipping burgers. They get an extra $10,000 without any regards to their current income simply because they're under an arbitrary limit. How in the hell fuck is this fair? It doesn't make sense. It also doesn't make sense because people who never went to college are now expected to absorb the cost, which will be over $2,000 per American citizen. Jesus. Let's see. Alex Philippos, how long till the courts injunct the loan forgiveness? I don't know what the status even is with the loan forgiveness. Is he doing it via EO? Is there going to be legislation? I don't even know at this point. Might be a throwaway. 87 Sparky, can any help me clank on Florida in Pixel Planet? Okay, well, if you're on Pixel Planet, you can definitely go to Florida and help to clank on it. Musically Assured Destruction, did Mr. Pelosi have a passenger in the car? I don't believe he had a passenger. I think that he was actually alone. But goddamn, look at this. Yeah, do an over and under. How many drinks do you think that he had before this? We know that he was under the influence of alcohol. We're not sure how much. We're not sure if there were other drugs involved. I think it's 4 or 5 drinks, maybe 6, something around that line in a fairly short period of time right before he got into the car, plus something else. I don't know what it would be, but I have a feeling that it's not just alcohol here because he looks completely wasted. Havercamp Truth, have a little business idea I'd like to pitch to you. You can do that via Twitter DM. Justin Fleming Comedy, 9.5. He would have to be drinking for more than a few hours to have 9.5. At his age, he would have fallen down at that point. He wouldn't have even been able to get in the car. Jolie in Controlly, I can easily drink 24 beers. Try doing it when you're 80 years old. I have a feeling that won't work so well. Laszlo sent $20. No comment. Thank you. Hey, guy. Oh, yeah. Pitch you to, I bet, 6 to 8 plus benzos. Yeah, that could be right. Benzos might make sense. Now we've got the 2024 presidential... Wait, that wasn't on the docket, was it? Oh, yes, it was. Sorry, I was misreading it. General election. Donald Trump, 40%. Joe Biden, 32%. Liz Cheney, 11%. Yes, indeed. The inference here is that if Liz Cheney runs as an independent, and I don't think that's going to happen. I really don't. I don't think she'll run in the GOP primary either. Maybe as a Democrat, but I have severe questions about the validity of these claims. The claim is that Donald Trump actually loses considerably fewer votes than Joe Biden if Liz Cheney is in the race. Now, you'll notice if you look at this, it only adds up to 83%. That is, there are a lot of unsure individuals within that voting margin. The general consensus, though, here, they also polled separately. If it was just Biden versus Trump, Joe Biden wins 46-42. That's a pretty remarkable shift for Joe Biden. It's not much of a shift for Donald Trump. I think that if Liz Cheney does run, it would take more votes from the Democrats than from the Republicans if she mounts an independent campaign. And the reason why is the only people applauding her are Democrats. She has no bloc. She has no support among the GOP that she's actually part of. She's been forced out of leadership. She was forced out by her state party. She's effectively no longer even a Republican. I don't even understand why people are talking about her running. She has less support than Mike Pence. Mike Pence would be more of a viable candidate. He's stalled out at 6-7% in most of the polls. So clearly he will not be the nominee either. Thank goodness, because he reminds me way too fucking much of George W. Bush, and I happen to be a core millennial. Yes, the baby apparently is having a huffy time. FUBAR 2020, Republicans taking the House, saving us from the IRS. They can attempt to fiddle with the budget in order to block the IRS expansion. Whether it's successful or not partially depends on who the House Republican leadership is and how willing to play game the members of the Senate are as well. Just to be clear, just because you are a Republican does not make you MAGA, and it doesn't make you care about restraining the role of government in the country, as we see from such individuals as Mitt Romney or Liz Cheney. Next news story, Center for Counting Digital Hate. Yes, I appeared again. Would have liked to have covered this yesterday, but didn't get a chance. Yours truly, once again, figured in the hit piece from Reuters, being replicated by another firm. It's much less significant than being on the front page of Reuters, but we'll go through it in brief. Video sharing platforms BitChute and Odyssey are hosting violent, conspiratorial, and extremist content. I am literally the first picture on the thumbnail, by the way. CCDH head of research Callum Hood told Reuters that platforms are failing to uphold their own rules when it comes to harmful content. I don't see any rules in the TOS that would ban most of the people you're mentioning from speaking. Conspiracy theories? Believing something that's against the lamestream narrative is not against the rules on BitChute on Odyssey, or against the rules on Rumble or Minds, by the way, for that matter. What do you define as extremist? I do not define anything that I say as extreme other than maybe my views on shrinking the government. I think that it should be less than half its current size. I like how I keep getting replicated, though, here. Apparently, just from the Reuters article itself, apparently I'm the main picture in the thumbnail. The article doesn't even fucking mention me. Can you at least give me a reach around and mention me in the article where I'm on the thumbnail so that I can get a few more subscribers? Because then they're like, oh shit, Reuters hates these people. They must be pretty cool. But you don't even list me. So unless they already know my visage, my semblance, my bathrobioed self, well, the fuck, they were already subscribed to begin with. I feel really, really sad and cheated now. I should sue them just for not putting me in the article, for robbing me of subscribers. Laszlo, hey Sticks, have you heard of the internet historian? He is pretty funny and has some great vids of 4chan raids. Yes, I have heard of him. Sir Blake, Gavin McInnes raided last night during his live show. Yes, I did cover that at the beginning. However, because we don't have any further info, we simply know that he was raided and then went off camera and the stream continued inexplicably for an extended period. There's nothing to say about it. We don't know the circumstances. We don't know if he's arrested, detained. We don't know what it's pertinent to. We have no clue what's going on. So hopefully he'll be back and he'll be able to live stream and sort that out. BW, what do you think of Dr. Turley? He did a couple of videos about we crushed leftoids in Florida and Biden's student loan grift might be backfiring because 69% of the public is wary of hurting the economy more. I do think that it is possible that the student loan debt thing backfires. The main way in which that can happen is if it doesn't pass. It is possible the left may balk because it's too limited. It is possible it gets injuncted by a court. If he promises people a boatload of money and they start buying things as though they're going to have that money, and then you don't give them that money because you waited too long to attempt to impose it because you dragged your heels like everything else the Biden admin's done, oh boy, are those people not going to be happy. Unfortunately, some of these people are goddamn morons and got into that debt because they are morons, and they're going to blame the Biden admin. And they will make those poor buying decisions. Miku4xbot. I strongly advise saving all pro-vax posts from news outlets, GOP reply guys, celebs, and social media guidelines before they blame everything on Trump. Good idea. Archive everything. Stephen13, if I become president, I will reorganize America. I will basically go Palpatine mode. Lol. Just kidding. At least Palpatine is coherent, unlike the current dude in charge, the steward. Alamandorius, hey Sticks, have you seen the changes in YouTube rules regarding COVID-related things that I won't mention? Yes, I have seen the claim that they have changed. Lifecock, Hunter Biden, Thursday Lane should start a YouTube channel. That'd be right up their alley. Lots of ass fucking and puppet shows, probably drugs. Roma Adam on Rumble, baby Sticks born. Sticks while holding the baby, another soldier in our war on tyranny. So yeah, the Center for Countering Digital Hate shares out the Reuters article. Once again, I see my semblance on this article. I didn't know that I was actually the first person there on the thumbnail. I just find it hilarious. In all honesty, I'm not really mad because I'm beyond being able to be deplatformed at this point because I've got such a huge audience on new tech. So I just don't give a fuck anymore. But I mean, it's like, it's just weird to be in the thumbnail of an article where you're not even mentioned. God damn. Do me a solid. Do I have to be more extreme? Do I have to say weirder shit and tell even more off-color jokes in order for the legacy media to do me the favor? Mitch James, thoughts on midterms and presidential election? More fortification? There will be attempts, of course. They'll just be more limited than before, and I don't think they'll work. Musically assured destruction. What's the best way to counter these big publications and organizations on their pearl-clutching over conspiracy theories and disinformation? By calling them out on every post that they make and getting others organized and doing the same. Have a picnic of it. It's funny. Someone you may know. Shout out to Timcast Records. Their new song dropped almost 9 hours ago, currently at 74K views. Let's bump it to 1 million. Yeah, I saw, I think, a clip of that, and it looked pretty good, actually. Now we've got Jim Crow Goes Woke from Spiked, actually. Political correctness has resuscitated racial segregation. This is talking about like black-only spaces, gay-only spaces and stuff. It is the same thing. You will not hear this from liberal individuals nor from the legacy media. They're still defending, though, and I would point this out. Where was your problem with affirmative action? Because I don't see many people pointing out how that's effectively the same thing. It is. You go to Harvard or Yale or whatever, and you happen to be white or East Asian. And you take tests and submit your GPA. It's weighted against you. If you happen to have a darker skin color or you're immigrant born regardless, you're weighted higher. How the hell is that not the same thing as racial discrimination? It's exactly the same. You've got a million organizations propping up one particular part of the population and nobody propping up the other particular part of the population because they are deemed to be privileged. They're deemed to be wrong, effectively. They're bad. They're inferior because of their whiteness or whatever. I would call that very Jim Crow-like. I would also say there's a tie-in with gun control. This is not mentioned in this article, nor do I expect it to be in a Spiked article. Gun control is a relic of Jim Crow. The Cruikshank decision in 1876 was nothing more than the Ku Klux Klan trying to disarm former blacks. The leftoids are still trying to disarm people for basically the same reason, so they can be more easily victimized and controlled. It's the same shit. It's a different asshole. They've just, the only thing is that they've changed the color of some of the impacted groups. The basic principle remains exactly the same because these individuals are incapable of actually governing. They're not capable of creating anything meaningful. They're effectively, they're nothing but latchers on to the things created by other people. At best, they can remain in parasitical neutrality to the systems that they are partied with, leftoids, that is. At worst, they attempt actively to destroy them, sometimes willfully. And they do this because they don't have the capability to do anything else. It's just in their nature. That's why they've gravitated towards leftoidism. There will always be a segment of society that is uninclined towards doing anything productive, uninclined towards helping or caring about others. They want to outsource the care and the help to the government, which means robbing people that are better than themselves usually. And they just don't give a fuck. They have no civic awareness. They're not intelligent enough to understand civics anyway. Their idea of philosophy is they read Marx they read the crib notes on the Communist Manifesto. They think that they're a revolutionary. The Crypto Dead. Been a daily watcher since 2013. Can you shout out my crypto channel, The Crypto Dead? Clank. Well, I just did. Zeem the Despot. Is a bill that says states have to get rid of guns control laws or they lose federal funding be too tyrannical or a good idea? I don't support any federal level gun laws, pro or con. There should simply be no mention of it in federal code whatsoever. Let the states handle it. Just make sure that they respect McDonald versus Chicago and DC versus Heller, and they understand the Second Amendment broadly applies to state laws as well. JG Lovecraft, did you hear about Zuckerberg on Joe Rogan? Yes, I mentioned it briefly earlier, that Zuckerberg went on Rogan and was talking about the Hunter Biden laptop case. The insinuation, although it wasn't explicitly stated, was, yeah, the FBI showed up when that thing dropped right around the same exact time to warn about disinformation. And so we became a little bit hypervigilant. Yeah, it sucks, but we downed a story that was actually true right around the time of the election. Everything is a coincidence with these people, you'll notice. Troy Amunga 000, you could probably write some sort of tabletop RPG sourcebook on how to run governments from a DM perspective. Make money doing it too. That does not sound like my kind of good time. Battle Elf, you're a towel. I don't understand what you say. So yeah, we worked through the news stories here, but I did want to circle back around as we used to get from the White House. Unfortunately, the circling back around days are over. Now we have to deal with that other chick that's there as the White House coordinator. To the Ashley Biden story briefly, I did want to cover that a little bit more. To tell the truth, that's all sorts of fucked up. You've got a diary in which someone is claiming that they think that they were molested. And at least tangentially related to that, they're saying that they were taking inappropriate showers with their dad and getting wiped after using the bathroom at an inappropriately long age. And not a question is being answered about this, or asked rather. Can you imagine if it was Ivanka Trump who had a diary that was taken under similar circumstances? It would be exactly 180, the coverage that we see now. It wouldn't be, hey, Project Veritas bad. They tried to obtain diary. They are being investigated. Don't look at the content, folks, even though it's been available for an extended period of time. It'd be the opposite. It'd be focus on the content. Don't focus on the other circumstances. It ultimately, you would literally see an MSNBC News title. I can write it myself. It doesn't matter who got the diary and how. What matters is what's in it. That would basically be the headline. And I'm wondering if anyone's actually going to look into this. Is anyone going to question, for instance, Ashley Biden? Hey, who do you think molested you? I know it'd be somewhat inappropriate to do out of the blue, but can somebody with a large audience, like can Joe Rogan set up a goddamn scheduled interview? He probably wouldn't do that. He has Trump derangement syndrome. Jesse Ventura apparently does now too. So that the laundry list of people capable of doing so is getting thin. Get Gavin McInnes to get Ashley Biden aboard. That would be funny. Yeah, set her up with Kyle Rittenhouse or something like that. They can do a show together. Darius Harvey, 1999, no comment, thank you. Mata Koyo, in my opinion, most state laws should be brought down to the county level. Just makes it more sense to represent what the people want. The states do have supremacy under the U.S. Constitution, not the counties, so I would oppose that. What I'd simply say is the Constitution has supremacy over states' rights too. Princess, permanent ban from Twitter last week for saying a bad word. Wonder what bad word it was. There are a lot more of them these days. Groomer, I know, is banned on there for most uses. Not on YouTube, thankfully, yet. George B. Pryor, $2.99 Australian. No comment, thank you. Everyone keeps mentioning Gavin McInnes. I have already spoken about that. The problem is that there is no update to give. In a news roundup, I can't simply talk about Gavin McInnes. So what I can say is that I object to the concept of him being raided because I can't imagine he did anything wrong, and it's probably persecutorial. But I don't know if he's in prison or if he's simply in detention or if he's back at home and he said, oh my God, fuck this, and he drank a whiskey sour and then went to bed. I don't know. There's no communication from him or anyone closely associated to give any form of update. I simply don't know what happened there. It's probably persecution of some political sort or another, but we can't even say that. It could have been swatting. Somebody called in a charge of some sort, and they showed up and they talked to him. Maybe he got combative, took a swipe at an officer, and now he's detained. Could be they were looking for drugs. Maybe he had a little coke on him or something like that. Again, persecutorial maybe, but we don't know. So, yeah, we'll talk about that probably. I imagine we'll get an update before tomorrow's live stream, though. Alamandorius, did you enjoy RTS games back in the day? There's a mod for OpenRA called Cameo that pits a lot of old and semi-modern RTSs against each other. Sorry for the previous comment. Should have been less direct with COVID related. I would say, as far as like older games, a lot of it's just basic bitch mode, like Zelda and shit like that. More often now, I've gotten into things that are more obscure. And looking back, like the Game Boy sort of games, there were some good ones. And of course, Ogre Battle 64, one of my greatest all-time favorite games. He had like Dragon Warrior monsters and stuff like that. I remember there was a Game Boy Advance game with Monster Rancher for a while, and it was semi-turn-based combat. It was very bizarre. Yeah. Anyway, most of the games that I liked back in the day were very, very basic mainstream games. And they came in literally in every variety. Open world, non-open world, very linear, more branched. First-person shooter games, strategy games, literally everything. I liked Super Mario Paint. I thought was great back in the day. Ministry of Wrongthink. You talk yet about General Milley's draft resignation letter? No, because it's irrelevant. I don't care about that. I'm more interested in his piece there that corroborates Donald Trump as having done nothing wrong. And Milley and Miller were both part of that, actually, that particular memo. And you can look back, and I had a video on it. Sebastian Monroe, sorry, I've been out for a while. Been working my new job and enjoying it so far. Here's funding for the Diaper Chief. Thank you very much. By the way, I am going to be cooking barbecue chicken tonight, along with stir-fried broccoli. It's going to be a keto wonderfest. That's what I'm talking about. I couldn't get the Southern Cross for the good ending in Ogre Battle 64. I managed to, the first time through it, I didn't realize that you were supposed to liberate towns and as opposed to conquesting them, and that relied upon the alignment of the unit leader. And so I got the bad ending the first time through. The next time through, I managed to get the good ending. And I mean, the game branches over and over again. It's impossible to get everything on one playthrough, actually. So you sort of have to tailor it to your style. One thing I would say is getting Europa is a great idea. I can't remember exactly the level. It was one of the orthodox levels there where you're fighting against these crazed, not paladins. I can't remember what they're called. And they're trying to, destroy you for the empire, whatever it was. Was it Vert Plane? I can't remember. And Europa's unit tries to go ahead of you. And the only way to reliably keep her alive was to use a trick in the game where you would pause and unpause rapidly. Your unit automatically starts moving slightly faster than every other unit on the board. And the more units that are there, the more pronounced this is. And so by doing this, you could, for instance, a unit that's very slow moving could hunt down a flying unit on level plane. And I found that out early on. I never saw anyone else mention this particular trick. I might be the only one that realized that you could do this. And so I would hunt down units using the pausing trick, and you would slowly pace ahead of them, regardless of the unit types. And then you could hit them from behind as well, because if you did it very, very carefully, they also would not have time to turn around to face you. So you could flank units as well. Yes, I realize this is kind of cheating, but it's not an actual cheat. It's a game function. So that means it's okay. So you could pace ahead of him, or your dad at one point, Ankaseth, him and his entire unit. They try to go out to rescue Yumal, I think, from some group. And you could pace ahead of him too, which meant you could ensure that enough units were ahead of him to clear out everything in front of him so that you didn't have to worry about him dying, which meant that you got an entirely new unit, and he was a fairly powerful character. I think Europa was better, though. I think she was one of the best in the entire game, if I remember correctly. Sebastian Monroe. Sorry, I've been out for a while. Been working my new... Oh, I already did that one. Sorry. Red Raider Matthias. What are the chances the economy tanks these next 2 months? A lot of companies have been doing layoffs and hiring freezes recently, I've seen via LinkedIn. I think that you're going to end up with more unemployment. That's going to start ticking up. But I don't see a major spike in inflation or outright collapse in the next couple of months. We are in a recession. I don't know if you're going to get the Q3 numbers ahead of midterms, unfortunately. They'll probably try to suppress them. Mitch James, thoughts on Joe Rogan? He has Trump derangement syndrome, and I warned that he's part of a cult of personality, but he is entertaining. Musically assured destruction. Barbecue chicken, take the grill pill. It's marinating as we speak. It's been marinating for, 4 hours now already. The Grizzly, how deep do you think the roots of the deep state go? How many administrations will it take to finally pull the roots out of corruption from the Fed? The existence of the Fed is the corruption. You will never be able to root out corruption within government. That's why I'm a libertarian. Simply shrink government down so much that its corruption cannot be particularly pernicious because it doesn't have the legal capability to legalize its own corruption. Andrew DeHurdy, what do you think of Jones going after Trump? It's probably a deflection. Rob S., favorite Italian dish, anything you cook yourself? I made stuffed shells once, and boy, oh boy, were they fucking good. By the way, please don't send any more super chats. I can get it through these ones. And do take the link, by the way, and vote for Sticks Hexenhammer's cat on the Grifty Awards. Link in the description, cross-platform. And on YouTube, if you're in chat, it's pinned at the top. Please do go down. I think we're still at number 13 on the Grifty Awards there. We're trying to get into the top rung so that we can win a Grifty for the cat, as you see here. She could use an award. She needs it. She's got big ambitions. Princess, banned for using slang for going in the back door in a bedroom way. YouTube won't even let me say it starts with B and ends with ing. Twitter. Boning? Banging? Going in the bed, or anal banging? I don't know. Pamela Mel, always the best analysis here of the decline. George B. Pryor, what was your favorite Zelda game? Mine was MM. I liked Link to the Past, honestly. Ocarina of Time was good. Seeing it open world, in 3D was definitely a thing. But I don't know. I'm more old school than even that. Alamandorius, are you inviting us all over for supper then? Yeah, OpenRA is free, so check it out. I never got to play O-Battle. It was too poor, lol. You can get Ogre Battle on emulator. It plays the same. Very complex game. It's very easy to learn the basics. It's very, very hard to master it. I have played through that game countless times. Dr. Ron Paul, Repub's getting outflanked by Dems again. They have no moral ground to complain about loan forgiveness when they gave billions to Ukraine. Agreed, by the way. Repubs need to run on student bankruptcy, going after university endowments. That can be a platform, but really it's a broader economical platform they need to go with. Mitch James, you and Razor should live stream about games. Yeah, I don't think gaming commentary would really be my forte. I think that he would be running circles around me because he would know like who created the game, the year, and shit like that. And I'd be like, oh, I liked GoldenEye 007. I'll leave that to him, and he should leave the food to me. George B. Pryor, obligatory, don't send any more super chat. It's going to be another meme. Yeah, by the way, more than 6,500 people at peak watching. Somebody noticing Michelle Bode. Hey, Sticks, your hair is turning red. Are you a closet Irishman? No, I think that's just sun bleaching. Like at the top, it's just a normal, medium brown, and it keeps getting lighter and lighter as it grows longer. The tips are almost blonde now. I don't know. Shampoo I use, sun damage. I don't know. I think it looks kind of cool because it's two-tone. I should just bleach it all platinum. I'll get my hair purple and then spike it up just to piss people off. But yeah, in my opinion, the best Legend of Zelda game was Link to the Past. It's arguably the classic game for the Super Nintendo anyway. Debating against Razor is easy. Just say Noir and watch him get distracted. RGZ Mac, Richard Simmons is not dead. They're lying. Yeah, at first I thought it was Gene Simmons. I read it wrong. And I was like, oh, I can't imagine him killing himself considering his fortune. He dies when a pile of money falls on top of him. That's how I expect him to go. Had so much fucking plastic surgery. Is there anything left to die other than his brain anyway? I think that happened a while ago. He's got TDS as well. Anyway, I'm going to go off here. Go offline. Please do make sure to vote in the Grifties. And if you get on Pixel Planet, just keep in coloring the red and yellow or the blue and dark blue in the ocean. We have taken a huge amount of territory over the last few days. We've completely wrecked the giant swastikas that were over there, which is fucking hilarious. Do it just to fuck with Matt and Blonde. Yeah, next time I go on there, I'll have to do something about my appearance, just to, you know, for old time's sake. Anyway, yeah, I'm going to go off now, and it'll be funny. Damn it, I just said butt fucking. All right, not allowed to say that on Twitter? Ah, okay. Mr. Friendly B, Sticks, are you a comics guy? No, absolutely not. That is definitely a major difference between me and Razor. Hate Marvel, DC, everything about them. It's just basically a nerdy version of soap operas when you really think about it. That's about all. Peace out.